the children walked across the land to every corner of the earth, and they were one. And they learned to live with the land, and called it many names. And they went from place to place, and gave the lands they found many names. But the earth was one.
Travel past Guyana and see all her beauty. A lot of faith people living in unity. A hard-working nation that spend their money wide. Guyana is a paradise. It's my country, a country I am proud of, and also a land where people share their love.
I had to overcome the trials in Babylon. They don't want us to live together. They want us to fight each other. They don't want to see us prosper. They want us to diss each other. No matter who you be or where you come from, you got to stand with this Gideon revelation. Each one teach one, iron sharpen iron. Wise man come take first stance. We're not ignorant. Protect the woman and children. Don't let no violence destroy them.
I bid you all a hearty welcome to this first roundtable of the Ministry of Social Cohesion. We are gathered as Guyanese from all walks of life to begin a very crucial conversation. We have come together to discuss how to bring to life the motto in our national coat of arms: one people, one nation, one destiny, which gives expression to our aspirations for a shared future that sees us all as one, our six peoples and those who have migrated from these shores for one reason or another, and takes into account our diversity, which can be used as a source of strength. It further reminds us that this country belongs to all of us. Madam Chairperson, it is nearly 50 years ago since we received our independence from the British government. That Guyana belongs to all who live here. It should by now be very clear to each of us. Unfortunately, that is not the case. It is for this reason that we are gathered here, essentially to explore collective ways of making this a reality. There is, I believe, Madam Chairperson, a clarion call by the people of Guyana for us to build a democracy that is united. On May 11, 2015, our people delivered a strong message that the time has come for national unity. Those who voted did so, not to divide the people of Guyana along ethnic and racial lines, but rather to force us to recognize the importance of a united Guyana that is socially cohesive. They envisaged a non-racial and shared future that has already found expression in our country's constitution through Article 13 that states, and I quote, the principal objective of the political system of the state is to establish an inclusionary democracy by providing increasing opportunities for the participation of citizens and their organizations in the management and decision-making processes of the state, with particular emphasis on those areas of decision-making that directly affect their well-being, unquote. It is for this reason our theme for today's roundtable is Social Cohesion for Lasting Unity and Peace. Ladies and gentlemen, just on June 10th, His Excellency, the President, David A. Granger, in his address to the National Assembly, committed to implement measures to instate inclusionary democracy and social cohesion in every municipality, every neighborhood, every region, and in the National Assembly. We are therefore meeting today to begin this process, initiating a moral regeneration and to encourage and promote positive values and a caring society in our country. Essentially, we are using a fresh approach to create a good life for all Guyanese. Madam Chairperson, as I said in my budget debate presentation, what is crucial is that as a country, we have to forge an enduring national consensus going forward on the broad objectives of our country's development. This consensus should neither be an imposition of one party over others, nor a honeymoon premised on the fickle whims of a fleeting romance in the case of a coalition. What should bring all parties and Guyanese in general together is the overriding commitment to a joint national effort to reconcile our nation and improve its well-being for a good life for all. As I also said in that presentation, the process that we are about to embark on does not subtract from the fact that there are different constituencies with divergent interests represented by our diverse parties. We should not be fearful of the obvious consequence that there are bound to be differences of emphasis and approach on a variety of matters. As we gather here to develop a national strategy on social cohesion, we felt that this was not a strategy that government should design alone. It is the fervent view that a national effort should be pursued, and this therefore requires the views and substantive involvement of as many sectors and stakeholders. Ladies and gentlemen, we are under no illusion that it is going to be easy. This Guyana is a product of many streams of history and culture, representing the origins, dispersal, and reintegration of humanity over hundreds of years. We have to build one national identity out of multiple identities based on class, gender, sexual orientation, age, language, geographic location, and religion. Madam Chairperson, whilst we have made progress in institutionalizing the principle of an inclusive governance, over the years, there is still a lot that propels divisions and frustrates our efforts towards national unity. The challenges of poverty, unemployment, homelessness, landlessness, and the divisions around race, class, and gender make it difficult to arrive at a socially cohesive and united society as fast as we would want to. Our responsibility as government is to lead the Guyanese people towards a national democratic society. A society that is united, non-sexist, non-racial, democratic and prosperous. A society with a value system that is based on human solidarity, which promotes a society which prioritizes caring for and respecting others. A society where there is quality education and health care, decent housing, decent jobs, where all feel safe and secure, and where there is an improved quality of life generally excuse me, for all, regardless of their race, color, gender, sexual orientation, or creed. As was said by President Nelson Mandela during his inauguration in May 1994, and I quote, "Let there be justice for all. Let there be peace for all. Let there be work, bread, water, and salt for all." Let each know that for each, the body, the mind, and the soul have been freed to fulfill themselves. I am sure our international expert, Mr. Chris Pease from South Africa, can relate to that quotation. Ladies and gentlemen, the conversations we are about to begin offers us an opportunity as Guyanese to dialogue with each other on the kind of society we seek to build. Through these conversations, we can discuss the critical question: what does it mean to be a Guyanese? We also need to ask ourselves, what is the standard of Guyanese-ness that we are seeking? And is there something more that we should and can do to build the Guyanese dream? Madam Chairperson, indeed there is a lot more that can define us as Guyanese and which can help to cement unity and build the social cohesion we desire. Firstly, we need to institute socio-economic transformational programs as a primary tool of national reconciliation, nation building, and social cohesion. Therefore, a continuous program of democratic transformation as well expansion of basic services and improving the performance of the economy to create jobs are all needed to create a united, cohesive society where all have access to a good life. Secondly, it is my view that people will be more responsive to social cohesion messages if there is hope and tangible examples of movement towards a better life and economic freedom. As a government, we recognize this and are working to implement programs to improve the quality of life of all Guyanese, especially the poor and the working class, to promote unity and social cohesion. At this stage, I must emphasize that social cohesion is a continuous two-way process, which, if done well and genuinely supported by all stakeholders, will go a long way towards promoting reconciliation, unity, and nation building. The ministry understands the importance of Guyanese ownership of the changes that will be needed. Collectively, we will focus on the root causes of our shared challenges, and more importantly, the ministry will create opportunities in partnership with all of the individuals and groups gathered here today, including but not limited to faith-based organizations, cultural groups, civil society, and private sector organizations for building capacities, to empower Guyanese to respond constructively and overcome the legacy of ethnic conflict, discrimination, and the concomitant challenges facing the country. Looking forward, we should keep in mind that the progress we make in building national unity will determine the pace at which our development programs are implemented. On the other hand, national unity will remain elusive if it is not accompanied by thorough changes in all areas of life. The Ministry of Social Cohesion should, therefore, be understood as an all-encompassing institution that will contribute to the processes of transforming our society in its totality to ensure a better life for all. In this regard, it is our intention to work with all stakeholders across the divide throughout this process. The government, through the Department of Culture, will also be encouraged to identify heritage sites for construction or upgrades. Through the upgrading and declaration of historic sites, we will ensure a more representative and inclusive Guyanese history and heritage. More importantly, this will also contribute towards shared values and a common national identity in the country. Furthermore, the building and maintenance of new monuments and historic sites has a greater potential to stimulate economic activity and create much needed jobs in communities where these sites are located. These sites will contribute towards cultural tourism, both domestically and internationally. It is my desire, too, to see the use of sports and recreation as a means of building social cohesion and national unity. Our Department of Sport would need to invest in school and community sports more than ever before. Ladies and gentlemen, in addition to sports, we can look at other instruments, such as our national symbols, which are a collective expression of where we come from, or who we are, and what kind of future we seek to build. Madam Chairperson, the government does not claim to have all the answers. There needs to be a broad consensus around all these issues. The process now underway to consult widely in drafting of the strategic plan for the ministry is utilizing a consensus approach, ensuring that the nation as a whole commits itself and acts as one to meet these objectives. In keeping with this approach, the ministry began participatory planning process for today's event. The first preparatory meeting was held on June 11, 2015. At that consultation, participants endorsed the SCR, after which 3 other preparatory meetings and a number of regional outreaches were held prior to today's roundtable. It is my sincere hope that this roundtable will garner contributions from all participants to enhance social cohesion in our communities and the country as a whole, as well as to develop a strategic framework for implementing a social cohesion 5-year plan. Specifically, the ministry aims through this roundtable to understand region-specific and national factors that should be examined in the formulation of the Social Cohesion Strategic Plan and Work Program. It is also our aim to identify practical options, strategies, and capacities for building social cohesion and addressing inequalities and monitoring mechanisms for evaluating, and finally, for creating national awareness and sensitization among the widest possible set of stakeholders on issues of social cohesion in planning for effective program implementation. We are very conscious of the fact that central government can only provide the framework for social cohesion and national unity. Implementation has to be carried out by the local structures, and it is for this reason that the ministry is putting in place mechanisms to coordinate the work and facilitate the processes at the local level, as well as a matter of speeding up the holding of local government elections. Without the latter, our attempts at building social cohesion and by extension national unity may be unduly delayed. Ladies and gentlemen, I also like to take this opportunity to thank the United Nations Development Program, UNDP, and the British High Commission for their unstinting support over the past months. I would also like to offer special thanks to Mr. Trevor Benn for the long hours he spent supporting my staff and I, and without whom the success of this roundtable could not have been a reality. As most of us know, UNDP globally has done much work in the area of social cohesion. However, as Guyanese, we have on many occasions proven ourselves to be a nation that thrives and finds solutions to difficult problems through dialogue, discussion, and reaching out to one another. We must therefore look to the future with confidence that whatever the challenges we face, we will overcome. This roundtable must be yet another platform for us as Guyanese to dialogue among ourselves, reaching out to one another and move a step further in building a truly united, non-racial, non-sexist, democratic, and prosperous Guyana. It is my honor and privilege to address you today, and I wish you all successful deliberations. Once again, a hearty welcome, and may our deliberations be fruitful. I thank you.
I'm honored to be here, and I thank Dr. Ojiambo for that direct quote, which I give to Secretary General Sharma. As you heard from Sir Sridhar Ramphal, Guyana attained its independence in May 1966. What I don't think he said is that we were under a state of emergency on the 26th of May 1966. The new nation had emerged only a few months earlier from a period known as the disturbances, during which at least 176 persons were killed, over 1,000 were injured, 15,000 were made homeless or became internal refugees, and 1,500 homes or other properties were burnt or destroyed. The electoral system of proportional representation was introduced that same year, 1964, to respond to the need to prevent further political conflict and, hopefully, to promote social cohesion. It was under that system that elections were held in 1964, which resulted in the entry into office of a coalition administration. That system, more or less, is the same system we have today. Guyana still needs, however, to inhibit the sort of social erosion that degenerated into social and civil violence. We still need to exhibit the spirit of social cohesion, which can ensure effective representation and inclusion. Central to that concept is the Constitution of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, which, as you heard earlier, describes under Article 13 an injunction that we introduce in our state system, the practice of inclusionary democracy. We feel that the constitutional ideal of inclusionary democracy could best be achieved by strengthening social cohesion. Social cohesion is about combating exclusion and marginalization, and, as the High Commissioner said, creating a sense of belonging and promoting mobility. One of the most prolific writers on social cohesion, Christian Larson, added that it is the belief held by citizens of a given nation-state that they share a moral community which enables them to trust each other. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, also has a similar definition. There is evidence, however, in Guyana that differences between various social groups continue to threaten mutual trust and to weaken people's sense of belonging. Ignoring the absence of social cohesion risks allowing social instability to fester. Lack of social cohesion arises primarily as a result of economic and class divisions between groups. Human societies, political systems, communities, families, and even personal relationships are cemented by laws, values, and beliefs, and agreements among its members. Without these, there will be distrust, disharmony, and occasionally disorder. Guyana, a microstate of fewer than 1 million people, with land space larger than England and Northern Ireland, and with bountiful natural resources and beautiful people, need not be poor. We need not be divided. We can build cooperative relationships at all levels of our society, among our religions and ethnic groups, among our political parties, and among our communities. Discord arising out of ethnic, economic, political, religious, and other differences, as we have discovered during the disturbances of 1964, and more recently during the troubles of 2002 to 2008, has been seen to have the potential to spawn extremism and conflict. Society has been scarred by violence, which left a lingering legacy of distrust with the potential for fresh disorder. Monuments have been erected in Bartica, at Eve Leary, in Friendship, to the victims of violence during the Troubles. We have to repair that damage. We have to restore trust. We have to build not monuments, but the bases for a moral community. Bases which enable us to trust each other. And we propose to do so by proposing, and I propose to this round table, a square deal for the round table. 5 areas of public policy. First, that we must do more to eliminate extreme poverty. Far too many Guyanese are classified, even now, as extremely poor, which means that they do not have enough to buy basic food on a daily basis. There can be no social cohesion in an economy characterized by huge gaps and wide income disparities between a few very rich people and a large mass of destitute, homeless, and very poor people. Extreme poverty can be reduced and eventually eliminated. We want to ensure that we concentrate our human resources on the task of developing our country for the good of our people. Poverty undermines families and can destroy households. We cannot give our people the good life they deserve if they are constantly preoccupied with finding enough to eat and somewhere to sleep. That is why it is so important to eliminate extreme poverty. It allows us to work towards creating conditions more propitious to the harmonious development of our country. Second, we must eradicate the worst forms of inequality, including gender and geographic inequality. We speak of one nation, but in economic terms, we are 2 countries, one in the coastland and the other in the huge hinterland west of Fort Island. Everyone, everywhere, deserves a good life. The disparities in development and income between the coastland and hinterland must be reduced and removed. The gender gap must be closed by ensuring that girls and boys are given equal opportunities to be educated and employed. Cohesiveness cannot be nurtured in an unequal environment. Guyana has been burdened with a historical legacy of segregated communities, the consequence of the pattern of labor mobilization for the colonial plantation economy. This segregation fosters ethnic tensions and creates a sense of separateness. Social cohesion cannot exist where there are gross disparities of income and development between the rich and poor, between hinterland and coastland, and between communities. We must work to reduce those disparities and promote greater equality. We will do so by enforcing equal rights for all and equal access to education, health, and other public services. We will provide greater opportunities for the disadvantaged. A more equal society will become a more cohesive society. Third, we need to ensure that there is greater political inclusion. This must start at the level of our parties and should facilitate through general and regional and also regular municipal and local government elections. We need elections to create a system of inclusionary democracy by promoting the participation of citizens and by including their organizations in decision-making. We are committed to that objective. We believe that the creation of an inclusive political system is the foundation for national unity. This is one of the reasons why we embarked on establishing a coalition among the 6 parties, the first time it has happened in Guyana. This coalition received a stamp of support from the majority of the electorate in Guyana at the recent general and regional elections. The result of the elections has provided, thank you Dr. Ojiambo, an opportunity for us to have, for the first time in our history, a government of national unity. We must seize this opportunity. I said at my inauguration that I intend to be president of all Guyana. This, without question, includes those who did not vote for the coalition. I cannot govern only in the interest of 51% and exclude the elected representatives of 49%. Political inclusivity will allow us to combine our efforts with those of others and to accelerate the process of national development. It will help us to reduce and possibly avoid violent conflict. My recent meeting with the leader of the opposition to discuss how we can take the process of national unity forward is a step in this direction. We are committed also to increasing the participation of business and civil society organizations, non-governmental organizations, and I welcome my friend and colleague Leslie Gonzalez, trade unions, in the political process. Where's Leslie? There you are. Fourth, we will work to implement fair employment, there you go again, fair employment laws for our working people and also safety for our miners in the hinterland. We will enforce the existing laws against racism more vigorously and vigilantly guard against bad elements who foment social and racial strife. Providing jobs for our people, particularly young people, is a matter of national priority. There is in our country today a crisis of youth unemployment. It is not our intention to deprive the rich from being rich in order to help the poor. We must, however, provide opportunities for the thousands of young people who leave school and university every year but are unable to find jobs. When you consider that every Easter time, over 15,000 young people write the National Grade 6 exam, just remember we have to find jobs for those people. Without jobs, they will not be able to escape from the cycle of poverty. Minimum wages are a useful tool against workers' poverty. Minimum wage increases also spill over into the informal sector, raising wages throughout the economy. Labor market institutions and social protection systems should be judged not only in terms of their efficiency, but also in terms of their ability to avoid disparities which lead to discord. And this explains also why the name of the ministry has been changed to the Ministry of Social Protection, because that is what it's supposed to do. Fifth, there must be equal access to education for everyone. When opportunities for quality education are accessible by the entire population, schooling becomes a powerful equalizer, bringing prospects for upward mobility, even to disadvantaged groups. Increasing educational access and attainment is an important way to reduce inequality. The quality of education, beyond mere enrollment, needs to receive attention so that improvements in educational outcomes effectively translate into greater productivity, better growth prospects, and improved opportunities for employment. Non-school inputs, such as meals, uniforms, and transport, including school boats, are important. Thank you. No reasonable offers refused. Thousands of children are estimated to fall short of their development potential owing to absence of a morning breakfast or sometimes transport to get to school. Equally, instruments that reduce the cost of continued education can improve attainment levels. Lowering the cost of schooling is an important step in encouraging primary, secondary, and university education enrollment. Efforts to close the gender gap in education are particularly important. On top of the need to ensure equal access to education for boys and girls, it can help to break what I call hereditary poverty, the intergenerational transmission of poverty. Indeed, maternal education has positive effects on children's health and future prospects. Gender-sensitive education policies and facilities foster social integration and cohesion. Schooling should be organized to increase the participation of children from poor, remote, vulnerable, and disadvantaged groups, thus making education more inclusive. Greater inclusiveness can also result from the development of teaching techniques and curricula that foster diversity and enhance positive perceptions of others within the system and within society. And that is why 2 days ago I insisted that we start to learn the languages of our indigenous people so that we share that spirit of inclusivity. Madam Chairperson, this therefore are the 5 points I wish to lay before the round table today in order to make our contribution to a cohesive society. Our strategy is to foster greater integration among the groups in our country. Integration is intended to create a sense of belonging. It is intended to give recognition to groups and to allow them to freely practice their culture. Integration expands the space for diversity. It does not reduce diversity. We are therefore asking people not to abandon their cultural practices and adopt another culture, but to bring their practices with them into the Guyanese mix. We intend to accord greater recognition to every ethnic group and encourage the promotion of their practices and culture. All groups will feel more accepted and therefore will be imbued with a greater sense of belonging. They will then be more willing to identify with society in which they live. The members of these groups must not see themselves as being marginalized, but rather as being equal as any other citizens are, and we promote greater social cohesion in this way. The social ties between communities will be strengthened. We will dismantle the artificial walls of distrust and division which have been erected and which create separateness between our peoples. We will place special emphasis on ensuring that fairness exists and promotes greater cooperation among groups. We will also encourage greater tolerance and understanding between the various groups in our country. We are a multi-religious, we are a multi-ethnic, we are a multicultural country. Our diversity is an asset, not a liability. We are proud to belong to a society of many faiths. We are proud of the mosaic of ethnicities within our country. Diversity is an asset. It does not necessarily, however, translate into inclusivity. It must be managed and mediated to achieve social cohesiveness. We want better relations among our religions, among our races and ethnic communities. We want greater trust and cooperation. We want happy families and happy households. We want, in other words, social cohesion at all levels of our society. The greatest impediments so far to social cohesion in Guyana have been the prevalence of political conflict and civil violence. Legislative and administrative measures have been unable to reduce or remove such violence. New measures are needed to create the conditions for economic and social development. We look forward to this forum. We look forward to the outcomes of the round table. We look forward to greater cohesion in Guyana so that under this administration, we'll be able to advance more quickly towards the goal of national unity. I wish you success in your roundtable deliberations. May God bless you all. I thank you.
Good.